Q&A with Miranda on 2025 National Fitness Day. Today, Miranda is going to be answering some of those burning questions like why warm up? Should you be doing exercise or sport? What's better? Who needs 1,000 daily steps? Me, not me. Anyone? And what are the key muscles for non-prosthetic wearers? Without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Miranda. So grab yourself a cup of tea and enjoy.
Hello, I'm Miranda. The number one question that I get regularly and for this is how often should I work out, which is a complicated question, but to maintain health, we're looking at 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity every single week. So moderate intensity is something where you're getting a bit out of breath, but you can probably still have a little chat while you're doing it. And that doesn't mean you've got to get 150 minutes done all in one go. You can split it out across the 7 days of the week, but that is the minimum cardiovascular workout that you should be doing to maintain your health. If you're trying to build up, you should be getting higher levels of that. That might be higher intensity, more minutes. And on top of that, we're encouraged to do at least 2 sessions where we're strengthening and 2 sessions where we're doing some balance exercises. So that should be every single week for every adult. And I know it sounds like a lot, but when you split that up into 7 days, it is much more manageable. Or if you're the sort of person who likes to get a lot done in one day, you could do an hour's workout a couple of days a week and then half an hour another day, and then you've covered for the week. So then some of the questions that Emma raised that have been asked: why warm up? This is a topic that annoys a lot of people because they just want to get in and do it. The reason we warm up in the body is to essentially let it know what we're going to do. We're going to start working out. Warming up warms the muscles, and with anything you do, you are using your muscles. And I don't know if you've ever tried to go from 0 to running on a cold day. Those cold muscles are not ready to move, and your risk of injury is actually higher. So one of the key reasons we warm up is for our muscles to be prepared, but also for our heart and lung and cardiovascular system to start pumping the blood and oxygen around to those muscles that are going to need that extra energy while you work out. So while a warm-up isn't always necessary, people can go on and do exercise without the warm-up, it just makes it a lot safer and actually increases your endurance for the workout. I've also had a question in: how do you take care of yourself when you're also taking care of others? So physical activity is one of the things that we often refer to as a miracle intervention, because it has so many really proven benefits for obviously your physical health, your independent movement. It can really help with some underlying conditions and maintenance of things like diabetes. That doesn't mean in place of medicine, but it can support it. But also obviously your mental health and well-being. And it can, conversely, working out can increase your energy levels, so it can often make it easier for you to do other things throughout the day. And the best metaphor I always think of is the aeroplane one. You have to put your own mask on before you put the others' mask on, because if you've already passed out, you can't help them either. So just start where you are. If you've only got 5 minutes in the day and you can do a little bit of dancing to your favorite tune, start with that. If you're the kind of person who likes to walk, but it's freezing outside, but you can put on a movie and walk in front of the TV, do that. Do what you can do. Start with any amount of activity is better than none. It's going to be really good for your body and your brain, and it's going to help you when you are supporting others. And if you want other people's support, which is often a huge motivator, then look at things like online classes, groups where if you've got a WhatsApp group or another community chat group, that can really also help, because on days where you're feeling a bit low energy, you can message them for support, and there will always be someone cheering you on, which can really help with that exercise journey. And then there's also the accountability side of things, which again, loads of studies have shown this makes a difference. If you say to somebody in the group or your friend, your exercise buddy, I'm going to do this today, you're much more likely to do it than if you've just promised yourself. The 1,000 steps, I'm sorry to tell you, it was made up by a Japanese advertising company. That doesn't mean you're doing yourself harm by doing it. It just is not based on any form of research. When they did start looking at it, they have seen that actually there is some research that for people who are beginning their exercise journey, doing a few bouts of fast walking, where you're getting more steps in, is actually more beneficial to building up your endurance and your health than a longer, short, slow walk. So the number of steps isn't necessarily indicative of your fitness or your activity levels. But if that works for you, brilliant. Lots of people have found that setting that daily goal and having their device that tells them how many steps they've done, they do those steps. And that means they reach those activity goals that they've set themselves every day. And that is all we're really looking for. If you're doing it at pains to yourself, then do think that there isn't any proven benefit of that being the best form of physical activity. You've got to find what works for you and what is going to keep you motivated. Also get asked a lot about being embarrassed going to the gym. This isn't always just about being a beginner. It can be if you are limb different, you can be treated differently. The instructors can sometimes not know what to do. This might again be a great reason to start with some online classes with people who know and understand, and you can get to know your own body. Once you've got that information, it can then be easier to go to a gym and feel confident that you know what you're doing, and that that people are surprised to see you there because of their lack of understanding, and that's really on them. But it is again about doing what makes you feel confident and you happy. So if online classes are better for you, or if going for a walk outside, getting some home weights, as long as you're doing it safely, that's the route to go down. Another common question is, how do I lose belly fat? Again, I have a sad answer for you, which is you cannot target where you're losing fat. You can tone up and you can increase muscles in targeted areas, but fat loss is generalized. So as you burn through fat, you can't pick where it's coming off. But as you do things like strength training and general weight loss, you are losing generally fat where it is best for you to lose it. Often women, especially as you hit your 40s, we talk about the middle-age spread, and society has told you that this is a bad thing, but often having a little bit of extra fat around the bones that are most vulnerable if you fall, around your hips, is really good for you. So having the padding in the right places is your body working for you. Then key muscle groups. So that's quite a difficult question. Physios are absolutely obsessed with your gluteal muscles, so all the bottom muscles. And the reason for that is that they have a lot to do with keeping you upright. If you have a lower limb amputation, you have to bring your center of mass over your legs to stay upright. The easiest way to do this is with your bottom. So if we think of where the belly button is, that's approximately where your center of mass is. If you think about, if you lean to the left or the right, out away from your feet, that center of mass is trying to be held up by something that is not directly underneath it. So the more work we do to bring your hips forward, so we're not bending those hips, sticking that bum out, the easier it is to control our walking. And this is true even if we don't have an amputation, because the more you start to lean forward, the more you're putting yourself off balance. They're also a muscle really involved in making steps. And so they become muscles that, even if you are off your prosthesis for a little while, we as physios would get you working those gluteal muscles. That doesn't mean all the other muscles are unimportant, but they will become a big focus. Obviously, then you've got all the other muscle groups. Essentially, you have to have some stomach control to be able to balance yourself, especially if you're wearing a lower limb prosthesis, and especially if it's not fitting particularly well, that those stomach muscles are really going to come into play. And the front of the thigh is going to help you lift that prosthesis, because we will always tell you that the prosthetic leg generally isn't much heavier than your natural leg, but it will always feel a lot heavier because of the distance it is from the end of the weight, the toes, to the muscle that you're using. And in this case, that is that bending of the hip. The muscle that bends the hip is having to do a lot of work to lift the leg off the floor, bring it forward. And so those become really key muscles, and they can be quite hard to train before you've actually got the prosthesis as a counterweight. But once you've got it, you'll start to notice you're building up muscles there. I would then say everything else, essentially, because even down to your ankle muscle on the other side, for the best possible walking pattern, you want to push off as you're stepping. Well, if you have no strength in that ankle, that limits you there, and that's going to have an impact further up, often the back. If you've got weak calves or a weak thigh muscle, then you're also affecting your balance, because as you're trying to take weight off the prosthetic limb, if you haven't got strength and stability on the other side, that affects your balance. As I said, the stomach muscles, the back muscles, obviously also keeping you upright. And for other daily activities, but also, you know, your general fitness and activities. If you want to play a ball sport, if you've got nice strong chest muscles and back muscles and arm muscles, you've got more control of the ball, of your movements. And even the neck, if we've got really weak neck muscles, especially now that so many people spend so much time in front of a computer, we do see this posture, stretching of the back neck muscles and weakening of them, actually. So the head suddenly feels very heavy to pull back up. So the shorter answer is all your muscles. But if you were going to start somewhere, I would always start with the bottom. Then the question I have is, when is it best to exercise? Now, there are lots of pieces of research on this, and there is some indication that it can be better in the morning, but it is thought that this is more to do with setting yourself up for the day and having time, because it's much easier later in the day to think, oh, I'll do this first, I'll do that first. But it's going to be another one of my answers, that it comes down to you, what works for you. If getting up half an hour earlier means that your day is ruined, then that's not really going to work for you. But what you might find is that you have to get into a bit of a routine to really see the benefit. It can often take 2 weeks of regular exercise to start seeing what really works for you. So sometimes it's worth pushing through an uncomfortable patch where you're thinking, I'm really tired, this isn't working, to then find out that is the best time for you. But you have to do a little bit of trial and error. I have another question here about my son and his friends are always on the computer. I do make him go outside for 15 minutes every day just to get some sunshine, and we do go for a walk. But all his socializing is online, and he hates these walks. Is 15 minutes enough? What else can I do? So it's really difficult. And we do see that teenagers, so 10 years old is probably a little bit earlier than that, but as they get into preteens, maybe 11, 12, we do see a big decline in physical activity. Part of this is to do with what's out of school clubs and what they're sort of expected to do. And part of it probably this day and age is because a lot of socializing is online. The recommendations for children up to 18 is an hour every single day of some form of physical activity. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be running around, but trying to find something that adds up to an hour. So if it's the 15-minute walks, trying to do 4 of those a day. But again, if you think about for yourself, you're not going to keep doing it if you're not enjoying it. If you can find something that engages children, it is much better. And, you know, I'm a bit loath to suggest it, but some of the virtual reality games, like even Pokemon Go, where you're trying to chase things, but it takes you outside, I think getting them outside and getting them active is maybe a good step, even if part of what you want to achieve is no screen time. But trying to find things that they enjoy. Try the games that you used to play as a kid with your parents, throwing a frisbee, cricket. If you cut it down into small sessions and do it regularly, again, even kids have to push past that period of it not being fun, it not being cool, and move on from that. Emma, are there any other key questions that you wanted answering in this session?
Hi, no, I think you've covered everything really comprehensively and very sensitively as well. So thank you so much for that. That was great, and I'm sure that people are going to find that really, really helpful. For anyone who has had a few questions that have naturally come to them whilst Miranda's been speaking, you are very welcome to email me, emma@limpower.com, with any of your questions, and I will then refer them on to Miranda. Thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely to see you as always.